right, we are back with yet another HEF podcast. That is the podcast of the Home Education Foundation. The Home Education Foundation is an organization that was founded by the beloved Brenda and Craig Dickinson, and it goes all the way back to the early 1990s to be the voice of parents in the capital to protect home education rights, which had just been secured around 1985. It was a very interesting time. It was not very widely popular. As much like today's school choice wave is just one that's being ridden by so many more people than it ever has before. It was, if you could imagine it, a very different time. And it was something that Brenda and Craig looked around and thought that they needed, and a bunch of other early people who were in the homeschool arena thought this needs to be a spelled out right, something that specifically exists to give the parents a very specific note in statute and law to nod toward their right given to them by God to teach their own children in the way that they see fit and to set their own standards. And that is actually a lot of what we're going to talk about today. And we have a wonderful panel. But before we get to that, I want to say thank you to the parents in the free state of Florida for supporting the work that we do. We had our first ever fundraiser in August of 2025, in which we had a home education family announce that they would sponsor a donation match challenge. They put $6,000 up if we could match that with pledges from across the state from parents. And right at the end of the month, support came through in record numbers, almost within the last 2 days, and we hit the benchmark. And so we're very thankful for all the parents who participated in that. And we had special unique challenge coins, and what you're seeing on the screen now is the design that came from that. And this year, we are going to host a design contest that will take place between May and August. And the details for that are to come, but we are going to open this up to home education students across the state to send in their design. So look to our Discord, look to our Facebook and our website for details to come. We'll let you know once that gets posted, but get excited. The only caveat I will say is no AI artwork. This is a moment to let your skill shine, who you are and the thoughts in your head that you know how to make with your own hands, that DIY thing that's so akin to homeschooling. Also, thank you to our top sponsors, Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group. And we actually have someone from TBHC with us today. So excited. And why don't we just go ahead and show everyone who's with us. Hello, ladies. Welcome to the HEF podcast. And from my top left, I think everybody else will be seeing top left to top right, we have Vicki Mullins, Kim Hannon, and Kimberly Tucker. And on the bottom left to the right, I'm in the bottom right, if you didn't know already, we have Brenda Dickinson, Dina Fox, and myself. And so I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves from top left to right. And so we'll start with Miss Vicki Mullins. How are you today?
I am terrific. I love a good Monday, reset the week, start all over again, and see what we can accomplish. Yeah,
absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself. You know what? You're on our panel today. We're going to dive into homeschooling, some of the history of it, not like a textbook where we're nerding out about dates, but I want to give that good big picture stroll down memory lane. Today, there's not going to be talk about doctorates or certificates in this or that, special credentials. I want to do it old school where we sit around the campfire and talk about scars and memories and moments and breakthroughs and all of those cool things that really make homeschooling what it is. So, Miss Vicki, tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself for us.
Yeah, so Vicki Mullins, mom of two beautiful young girls, young women, they're getting to be. Interestingly, I was a silent observer of homeschooling in the 80s and 90s, so back when it was a completely different character in our story. And then fast forward to when I had my own children, one of them went off to VPK, and it just became abundantly clear that that wasn't what God had called for our family. and a homeschool mom that I admired. I didn't even know why I admired her. I just thought she really poured into her children so well, said to me, if you send your kids to Caesar, don't be surprised when they come back Romans. And I just didn't want little Romans. I wanted little Mullins and little girls chasing after God's heart. And so we started homeschooling, but I have a husband who works in higher education. So his one request was, don't mess up our kids. And here we are 13 years later, and I think we've done well by them.
Nice.
We've launched one into university and the other is in full-time dual enrollment in Christian college as a high school junior homeschooler. So yeah, that's us. And along the way, I have felt completely inept and ill-equipped, but we've pulled and tugged our way through it, and we're just really excited about just the changes and the popularity of homeschooling, but we also see the challenges with all of that.
Sure.
So we're really grateful for what you all do and being part of this.
Well, thank you for being with us today, Vicki. I can't wait to hear more from your point of view, as well as the rest of the panelists. You know, homeschooling can be confusing, and there's lots of things happening. You can feel tossed by the waves, and rather than learn from people who have studied about waves in books and studied about ships in books and put together model ships, I would rather talk to people who have moored a ship or, you know, sailed through their own rough waters and can speak from experience. So I'm glad for each of you who's with us today. Kim Hannon, it is your turn. Good
Hello,
day.
everyone. A lot of you may know me as Kim Hannon of TBHC. So we started the Tampa Bay Homeschool Conference through our homeschool group. But today we'll kind of put on the mom hat because I think that's more where we are today. So I started homeschooling when my oldest was in kindergarten. When he was born, I knew that it was just not the path I wanted for him to go into school. I am a former public school teacher, and walking through the halls of middle school, I looked around and knew that that was not the future I wanted for my kids. I wanted them to grow up, you know, like Vicki said, to know and love the Lord, and to be a respectful and a part of their community, and to be a good citizen, and to just follow the path that God called them to. And I just didn't see that happening in a public school setting. And so much to my husband's chagrin, initially, we homeschooled. He agreed to try it for a year. And then it was just kind of like each year was like, all right, fine, you can do first grade. All right, fine, we can try it with Jacob too. All right, fine. And then we get to COVID. And that year when we were home and he witnessed firsthand full time, because he had to be home and he was there working, and he saw what homeschooling really looked like. And he was all in from there, and he's been our biggest supporter since then. So it's been really cool to kind of see this journey, not just for my children, but for us as a family, of what that has looked like as homeschoolers. And, you know, I'll piggyback off of Vicki. I feel inept every day, I think. But I don't think that's unique to a homeschool mom. I think that's just parenting.
Yes. Yes.
It's a matter of recognizing that I am inept without Jesus there as my co-pilot. And I am inept there without my husband supporting what we're doing, and without my community coming alongside me and being willing to reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. What worked for you? And that's just parenting. You know, homeschooling is just kind of taking parenting to the next level. But anyway, I'm super excited to be here today, surrounded by these incredible women and you. And I look forward to our conversation today.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And thank you for that. There's so much in what you said that I want to unpack, but I think we just got to get to the conversation and introduce our next person. Kimberly Tucker, you have a different experience and background, and introduce yourself.
My name is Kimberly Tucker. First of all, thank you for inviting me. This is exciting, and I'm so thrilled to be surrounded by, like Kim said, these lovely ladies and yourself. And so my background, I own the Homeschool Hive currently. However, let's go backwards to about 2011. I became a homeschool mom. To one daughter, Sophia. I was and still am a certified teacher in Florida. And my our personal journey began when Sophia who is on the autism spectrum, when she started to really struggle and was failing in the public school system. And she asked to be homeschooled, which is really ironic because I had no clue that she even knew what homeschooling was.
Yeah.
But she did. And after a lot of prayer, I decided to bring her home, and it changed the trajectory of her life and my life as well in amazing ways. And I can't wait to share more about that. But she is now 23. She just got married about a month ago, and she's doing amazing. And I believe that her success in life and mine is all due to homeschooling.
Well, now I understand why you have been so busy. So busy. And I can't wait to hear more of those details when we connect later. Thank you for being with us today and taking the time. I know that the time is short and precious, so thank you all. Before we're going to switch, we're going to snake around this time so that we do Brenda last. Miss Dina Fox, if you would also introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. So good to be on here with you guys and see you all in person. I see you online so much. My name's Dina Fox, and my husband and I live in Tampa. We've been here for a very, very long time. The homeschooling, home education, I like to call it, really, for us was a very interesting journey. When my children were, well, I only had one and I was expecting at the time, my husband said, I think we should consider homeschooling. You do not tell a 7-month pregnant woman with a 2-year-old that you think she should do more work. And I looked at him and I said, well, how's that going to work? How are you going to quit your job and do that? Because I literally said that to him. And he was like, well, we'll talk about it later. I said, that's a great idea. So later on, it became evident that our oldest, who has always been a circle trying to be fit in a square peg, was going to thrive at home and not in a public education or even private education setting, really. So I always say your firstborn kind of determines your homeschool trajectory a lot. A lot of times when the firstborn, even if they go to school for a while, you kind of think you're going that way, but then when a need arises, you'll turn. So my youngers just well, this is what we're doing. And so my oldest is 33 next month, which is really weird. And then I have a 30-year-old, a 27-year-old, and then we have a 12-year-old. So I have a 20-year span from oldest to youngest. I thought I was done homeschooling in 3 years when the Lord called us to adopt Isaiah at birth. And so I counted the cost, and my husband said, what's the holdup? And I said, I have to homeschool again. Not because I don't believe in it, because I was exhausted. In 2004, I noticed that all of the co-ops in the area at that time were rising and falling based on the leadership's kids graduating. And I wanted something with longevity. So I founded ClassWorks and made it a nonprofit so that we had a board and a model that would go beyond our generation. And we are in our 22nd year. And this year launched our first on-campus, in-person Christian dual enrollment program at ClassWorks. So we're super excited.
Nice.
I have something for that.
I don't want to know what else you have, Jason. I know you too well.
I've got plenty more up the sleeve. We'll pull them out later. Thank you, Dina. Thank you for being with us. And thank you all for pouring out your hearts and sharing with us your experiences. Miss Brenda, I don't think that you need much introduction, but I wanted to give you a moment to at least say something. And perhaps there's someone who's visiting and viewing our podcast for the first time or gets shared to the first time. So keep that in mind and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jason. And I'm so happy Jason has come to take my place. I cannot tell you what a great job he's doing and how comfortable I am to walk away from this taxing job of lobbying It is very taxing and it's year round. People don't realize how difficult and time consuming it is. So I am really grateful. And I'm also grateful for the wonderful friends that I've made through the home education journey. I was recounting last night some of the ones that came to my 60th birthday party. And I'm well past that one now, but just really just intimate, close friends that I have. And the ladies on the screen, I count in that circle. We started homeschooling when it wasn't legal in Florida. And everyone was underground and people were hiding as much as they could in plain sight, because you have to keep your children out of the light for people to want to go, why isn't your child in school? So we did what a lot of people did. We formed our own private umbrella school called Highland Christian Academy. We lived on Highland Drive. So when somebody said to my child, why aren't you in school? And they go, well, we go to Highland Christian Academy. 2 people and 1 teacher. So it was quite obvious to the DOE when they looked at their records for private schools, you could just take a yellow marker and put the ones that were home educating. And so the department decided that they were going to stop that practice in the state of Florida and began to instigate prosecutions in different counties. And it was in that environment. In fact, there were, I think, at least 1, maybe 2 in the Tampa Bay area that were prosecuted for truancy for having their children at home.
Wow.
And it was that environment that we decided, Craig was an attorney, that this was just too good for parents not to have the opportunity to teach their own children. And we didn't have any curriculums. We didn't have anybody that wanted to sell the home education families. They all looked down their nose at us like we were some sort of weird, right-winged, crazy people, but there were just as many on the left. So it was a movement of both left and right to spend more time with their own children and customize the education. And we did lobby in the beginning with some of those people that were from the John Holt and not the other group that were just like, let the kids do whatever and they'll learn while they're doing. And amazing, the kids turned out great. So that was kind of the ground we came from. My oldest was terrified of new situations and strangers. And you would never know that today, but then she would have just wilted in school. So I asked if I could go to the school and observe in the classrooms where she might. They told me no. That started the fight. You don't tell me no when I'm a taxpayer. And there weren't all the rules in place for safety like there are today. But when she told me no, that was the beginning of, we're going to find a way to do what we want to do. So we put a lot on the line because we could have been arrested. The department called us after we started lobbying because they knew that we were trying to create a law, and we could have easily had the truant officer show up at our door. But we were willing to take the chance, and there were a handful of parents, maybe 30 across the state, that were also really finding out that this was the way that God intended you to raise a child and not put them in some system. So we somehow, without cell phones, without internet, managed to connect to enough people that we had a small group of people to come and help us at the Capitol and testify. And that's began our journey.
Awesome. Well,
that's my story.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for doing that and sharing that with us. You kind of have a little bit of background noise. And I don't know if you can look down next to your microphone button, and I don't want to knock you off by accident. So if you don't feel comfortable fiddling with it, don't. But there is a noise cancellation option that you can turn on next to your microphone. And it will.
Nobody here.
Oh. Well, I don't know who has the noise then.
Um,
I think it's
Anyway.
Kimberly. I think it's Kimberly's.
I can't tell, but
I'm in a headphone.
It's
Your-
picking up. Your microphone will pick up what's around you.
We'll
Okay.
be right back.
it is all right. We'll move in to discussion. So, I thought because I saw her thing moving, it was her, but it's not. So, each of you spoke, and there's something unique about each of your approach and your history and what you bring to this conversation. And I love what Brenda kind of brought up, which is that spirit of you don't tell me no, I'm the parent. And from the Home Education Foundation's perspective, that is our official firm stance that you are the parent and they are your kids. And this is also why we believe it's important for all the parents to know their rights and to be aware and to have conversations like this so that they'll know that they can stand up for themselves or push back rather than just go with the flow and have to do what everybody else is doing and put their quiet fingers up and raise their hand like we're all taught in other spaces in life. Not so in homeschooling. We're a bit of a DIY rowdy bunch, and that's kind of okay. The concept of schooling and homeschooling is a bit. I was watching a kid fumble with a Rubik's Cube this week, and when it's mixed up, it's just I still can't solve a Rubik's Cube. I look at those kids flipping them around and doing them quick, and I'm like, God bless you. You can see it. You can see your way through it, and I am just stunned but that you can do that. Like, it's good for you. But ultimately, I do know that the way that you learn to solve a Rubik's Cube is simply through practice over and over and over again. And whether it's difficult or easy, you just continue to press and you learn a new piece of the skill and you learn a new turn and then you add it together and then somebody mixes it up different and you get better and better and better every single time. And I've seen kids do them blindfolded. And so we have a number of people here who could probably do homeschooling blindfolded at this point. But we also have a lot of people who are going to be listening who are looking at that Rubik's Cube and its messiness. And they're going to go, the only way I know how to make sense of it is to make it look like public school. I need it to look like they obviously know what they're doing. They've got certificates, they've got degrees, and they've got tiers and tiers and tiers of bureaucrats telling them that they're all so important and they all do the most important job and they know what they're doing. And there's no way a parent could compete with any of that. I want to peel back that curtain. And I would love to listen to you, not me. I would love to listen to you take the discussion today. And let's talk about what homeschooling really is. The school choice wave has hijacked it so that anything that's not public school, private school, or charter school is now homeschooling. And we know that's not the case, but there's so many people who don't even know up or down or that homeschooling isn't public school at home. This is a wild concept. So let's kind of take a look at that mess and dive into it for people. So the first most basic prompt, and I don't care who starts, is what is homeschooling really?
So I like that I like the idea of redefining the terms, right? You said it earlier, you prefer home education as the concept of what we're doing.
Yes.
Because really school is defined for most people as that brick and mortar, cookie cutter, everybody goes at a certain age, they're clumped with other people their age, and that's our system, right? So when we redefine that and call it home education, it opens the doors for us. It opens and lays out groundwork where we can really customize what we're doing. And I actually was one of those public schoolers at home the first year we did this, and we were part of Florida Virtual. And I quickly learned within just a couple of months that even though we were calling it homeschooling, we had to register a certain way and we had to do all of these things. It was too cookie cutter for my child. She was breezing through kindergarten curriculum, if you will, in minutes per day. And they kept trying to force us back into their schedule, their testing, their idea of what was best for our child. And that's ultimately what catapulted us into pulling her out and saying, absolutely not. They were threatening to fail her and hold her back if she didn't take the FCAT. And so I think if we start redefining the term and taking school out of it and substituting education, it gives us more freedom. And I like that this organization is a home education foundation and not a homeschool foundation for that very reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can echo that, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I'm hearing you say that the word school in homeschooling kind of gives the mental idea that you're on a track like a train and you're just locked in, and there are no off ramps until you arrive at the standardized destination that everyone else
Right.
also arrives at.
Yeah.
And that's not the way with home education. Dina, I saw you wanting to speak.
Oh, I was telling my dog to place because she was annoying me. And that's another part of home education. If you have never had to stop in the middle of your lesson plan to pick up something a kid spilled, fix a washing machine, or tell a dog to quit it, you haven't been homeschooling.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, homeschooling is a misnomer, isn't it? Like we have
Yes.
this because school is a building, it's a classroom,
A system.
and it's a system.
Yes.
And how many times have you guys had someone ask you, we did XYZ, does it count?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, literally every single thing that you do every single day with your child counts. Did they learn how to put a load in the wash? Yes, that counts. Did they empty the dishwasher? Yes. Did they find bugs? Yes. Did they play in the pool? Yes. Did they go and serve at their church? Yes. Did they play on their baseball team? Yes. Like every single thing. So like this idea of school is if I'm sitting at a table and working in a book or sitting at the computer, then I'm learning. And if I'm not, then I'm not. And I think that's where one of our biggest issues is people, we have a hard time recognizing when we're looking at what we know of the school system, you know, that's all that we think of as school, right? And there's this whole world out there, you know, to look at like the Charlotte Mason concept that school is an atmosphere, a discipline, a life. I love that quote, and I resonate so much with Charlotte Mason, even though we're not really Charlotte Mason homeschoolers at home. For those of you that are new to homeschooling, Charlotte Mason is a very popular educational philosophy. It's very interesting to dig into. It's one that I actually recommend people to learn about when they're first home educating, because it is so much outside of the norm of what we think of as school. But just this concept, you know, if you think of what that means, education is an atmosphere, a discipline, a life. It's creating an atmosphere in your home where learning happens. It's allowing the space and the margin for discovery and curiosity and questions and exploring. It is being disciplined when the time comes. Yeah, you might not feel like sitting down and doing your math right now, but if you don't, that means we don't have time to go to Busch Gardens on Friday. So do it now. Right. And it's a life. It's just the life you build together as a family. It's not just contained to school hours. It's we're sitting at dinner and a conversation comes up, and next thing you know, someone's jumping up and pointing out something on the world map that's in our dining room. We're noticing that the moon looks really cool. Let's go outside. Why does the moon look like that tonight versus other nights? You know, that is home education.
And it can look like anything, right? It can look like anything. You've got Wild and Free, you've got Charlotte Mason, you've got classical, you've got piecemeal. I had a young mom ask me just a few days ago, she has kids that are 2 and 3, and she's thinking about homeschooling. She said, but I work. When do you do school? I said, first of all, we're going to take that out of your vocabulary. School happens whenever it can happen.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
depending on your long range goal, your short term goal, your day-to-day goal, whether it's clean up the messes everybody left or let's learn about something else, it can look different all the time, and it can adapt over the course of time. It can be adapted. So I think you're right. It's a misnomer. We need to change. It's education versus school, because people do see that as this quote unquote structured, you know, get up at 8, start work at 8:30, done by 4. And maybe that does look like that for a lot of families. I know for a lot of our homeschool journey, it did look like that, because husband in higher education had parameters he put on us. But I think that's what people need to do, is free themselves of this structured, formal concept that can't be strayed from.
You know, that's very interesting. I love the way this conversation is going, the away from the misnomer of school and bringing school home and calling it homeschool, but switching the shift to home education and putting the emphasis on the education. But then, and taking a look at education, we're looking at the system of how one educates and going, pick your own system or make your own system. And I think to whittle that down even further, or get to maybe the atoms that make up the the thing as the whole that we see standardized learning environment, right, versus parental freedom to customize. And that's really what we're talking about. A standard, there's a preset standardized learning environment, and I can pick from that, which is what I think a lot of people default to because we've been in it for so long now. I don't think any of us have been born into an environment like, say, Miyamoto Musashi was back in the 1600s Japan, where there wasn't this formalized system of things. It was make your way in the world. And, you know, as an independent Ronin, he had to figure out how to live and survive. And I've been studying, sorry, that's on my brain because I've been studying him a lot lately and using that to make our homeschool method, which focuses more on mastery than standardized benchmarks. So rather than reaching certain benchmarks, we look at everything the way he looked at it, which is everything that you do is practice for the next thing you do in life. The Navy SEALs have a statement where they say, how you do anything is how you do everything. Or no, that's not them. They might say that. They say slow is smooth and smooth is fast, which is slowing things down. But there's another statement that exists out there in the ether that someone said, and it's how you do anything is how you do everything. So whether it's pouring tea, sweeping the floor, doing push-ups, or choosing when to take care of your studies, your learning times.
It's the Japanese, Jason.
Yeah, it's the yeah.
It certainly is. It certainly is. But it's very interesting because even when you look at the Japanese schools nowadays, they function, and that's a system, but they function very differently than ours do. And yet we've somehow come to this idea that we inherently trust that a systematic approach that's been handed to us when for all of human history, it hasn't been so. It's been messy and difficult, and people have smooth sailed and rough sailed and found their way through. Let's take the conversation in this direction. Help me understand the tendency to trust those systems and why sometimes distrust and thinking for yourself is a better option.
Well, I'll tell you from my end of it, having 3 adult kids out in the world now, well into their careers, that the benchmark that higher education holds on the university system and the licensing system for being able to operate in different arenas in our world, somehow they got the universities became the experts who would then tell us whether or not we could do a career or we could go into something, is a very big part of what keeps people in a place of but what if I want to blank? Will I have access to those things? And that I can't say to them that that's not real. You know, that is true. There are some things that if my child wants to do, then I'm going to have to help them figure a way to reach those benchmarks because they are in control of that right now. But that doesn't happen under, you know, in the you know, under eighth grade and under crowd. You know, we're not really worrying about that until we're getting ready to go into some, or even does it have to happen in high school? But I do believe I've done an awful lot of thinking and reading about why are we in this expert driven society. I know the pandemic really highlighted that for all of us with medical. But we see a lot at ClassWorks. We do a lot of mentoring in the community, and we have so many new families come in and they go, okay, but I've got to make sure that they can become an XYZ. I'm like, well, first of all, good luck with that, because you don't control that child's education. You think you do, but they're really the ones that control their education, if they're going to learn it or not. And second, we don't know what they want in 15 years, and what they wanted 15 years ago is different than what they want today.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's just saying I really think that's one of the biggest drivers of wanting, because they've built the system that if you do this and you do this and you do this, then we grant you access to this and then you can be this. And that's why so many home educated kids end up in more entrepreneurial places and being those people's bosses.
You know, as a case in point, I was speaking with Senator Burgess the other day, and he took a challenge coin out and handed it to Aurora. and it was in the shape of a shark's tooth. And I remembered from one of the committee meetings that he had mentioned the shark tooth capital of the world, and he was on about sharks. And I'm like, man, this guy loves sharks. And so I asked him, and he said, yeah, I would love to swim with the great white one day, you know, like the cage thing. And Aurora's eyes were like huge. She loves sharks, has always loved sharks. But the idea of swimming with them is out. But she wanted to do something with water, and she wanted to, you know, work in that. I want to swim with sharks. I want to study sharks. And then not anymore. Now she wants to open a bakery and do, you know, a complete different shift with a different passion. And it's funny to see in my life that play out as you're talking about it and describing it. And I'm sure you all have even more examples of things like that. Vicki, you were telling me something when we were having lunch that one day about how you guys had started with a particular systematic approach, but now you've kind of broken and are doing your own thing, and that's made a difference for you. Yeah. Add that to this conversation. Speak to that.
So let me bump back 1 second about trust.
Yes.
We're asking about why people trust the system that has been put in place. And I think it is a trust thing because it's familiar. And we see kids who come out okay from the public school system and some that excel. But I would submit that the kids that excel are not just taking that public school system at face value. Their parents are more involved, probably. They're going deeper. They are planning academically if it's university they're looking for, if it's entrepreneurship, they're adding to it. No one is just taking the public school system at face value, taking what it has to offer. And I say it's a mile wide and an inch deep, you know, there's not a lot of depth there. And so they trust a system that will get their kids sort of where everybody else is going, but anybody who wants more has to go get more. And I feel like those of us on this call and probably listening in our peer groups wanted more. So we just jumped out of that trusted system.
Interesting.
Yeah, for us, we, after we jumped out of Florida Virtual, ran screaming from Florida Virtual, we'd been exposed to classical conversations, and that was an amazing fit for us. It spoke to my husband's desire for rigor and college preparatory work. It spoke to my need for structure, because while I didn't trust the system, I do need structure. I'm not one who functions well with piecemealing things together and hoping for the best. I'm a planner, organizer, structured type person.
Yeah.
So classical conversations was that for us. And it did well by my girls. My older graduated last year, was admitted to every university she applied to. She is in 4,000 level classes as a freshman and just thriving. Did really, really well. My younger was on the same track until she wasn't. And I was never we'll take it a semester at a time, a class at a time. I felt called to this path. I felt like I saw one child thriving in it, and that's where we were going to stay. And God gave us a redirect at the end of last year. And it was neat because Kim can speak to this. I tend to latch onto something and I go get it and I finish it and that's it. And he gave me a piece about if you believe what you say you believe, you have to believe it. Ooh. And I believe that home education should be tailored to the child and the family. And at that moment, I was faced with, it's time to tailor something different. So we took out a step out of something she had only ever done. That's all she'd ever done. And she was a junior, and decided that Bible college dual enrollment was best for her. And she is thriving. She is in leadership at church. She is in, she's got higher than a 4.0. She's going to make the dean's list in her first semester because that was what was good for her at the time. So I've been encouraging people, you may think today you are called to this, but be ready for that redirect, be ready for that pivot, and embrace the fact that as home educators, we can do it. We have so many options. Don't be blinded by the structure you think you need, or the curriculum you think is best, or the peer group that you think is the only place your child should be. If we're truly in tune with our child on a day-to-day basis, we may find out that that's different.
Very good.
Thanks.
Yes. And what was that moment, that phrase that you said, because you said it quick and everybody was like, yeah, I know, I've heard that, but Mr. Crawford hasn't heard that. So if you believe what you say you believe, you have to act like you believe it. Is that what it is?
You just have to believe it. Like
Yeah.
you're saying you believe it, then believe it. And
And
live
I
the
believe,
way
Yeah.
you believe
yeah.
it.
And I believe
Yeah.
that home education has to be tailored. Otherwise, go put them
Love
in
it.
school.
Right.
Mm.
You know, when our older daughter in 7th grade did a mock trial and realized how much she loved the law and government and politics and all the family business, if you want to call it that, we were able to tailor all of her outside activities and learning to that path. And here she is, pre-law, headed into an attorney lobbying career. And I think if she'd been in a standard school, that wouldn't have been possible. This child has more connections in Tallahassee than the average lobbyist, and she's 19. You know, Jason's seen her. She walks around up there like she owns the place. But it's because she spent every free moment and a lot of her education time doing what it is she wants to do in life. She
Yes.
would not have done that in a traditional school.
Right.
Which
Amen.
is fascinating because it's a practice of going deep, like you said.
Yeah.
It's not a mile wide and an inch deep. You've
Yeah.
taught her to master the art of going deep on something, and she goes, now I'm latched. I know what I like, and
Right.
I have the skill set of knowing how to go deep, and
Right.
boom, go. That is fantastic. And thank you. Oh man, you said something else that I wanted to pivot on, but that caught me right at the end. I can't remember what it was. You said, I do remember now. You said that it worked until it didn't work.
Well, it didn't.
And I think that many parents feel that. I think that is going to resonate strongly with a lot of people who might be listening.
I think we've seen that since the pandemic, right?
Absolutely.
People
I
thought
think-
traditional schooling was working, and
Right.
maybe it was until it didn't. And, you know, during that time, there were so many people who were scared because they were homeschooling all of a sudden by doing public school at home. And I'm like, no, that's not what that was created to do. That is not home education. That is doing public school at home and in a manner that it wasn't designed to be delivered. And
Yeah.
so I think people realized quickly that they could change their approach, and what was working isn't, and now we're going to find
Yeah.
what works.
I agree fully, and I think Miss Tucker can probably speak to this a lot because she's probably seen, and in this place that you sit as an evaluator with a big evaluating view of many people that you've worked with, you've probably seen so many situations come to you where parents, it's working till it's not working, and that would be either their entry point into home education or perhaps their roadblock that makes them want to give up. And
Absolutely.
If you could maybe crack that open for us, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I was waiting to jump in patiently. Every day at the store, every day, multiple times a day, we have families come in that have reached that point, or they have just started their journey and they don't understand how to home educate and not homeschool. And so we spend, my employees and I spend countless hours mentoring families and explaining the difference between homeschooling and home educating. And one of the something that happens every time that the family finally it clicks is you can see, like a cartoon, the mind explode.
Yeah.
And and then you see a physical relaxation. The fear is gone because now they know they aren't, because I think a lot of families are trying to recreate what is happening in the school, public or private, and they don't have really any understanding because you just don't. Unless you were a teacher in the system, you don't understand. You don't know what standards are. You don't know about their pacing guides. You just, and so they come in wanting to recreate, but then they leave having this world opened up to them of possibilities. And speaking of going deep instead of an inch thick, a mile long, that is probably the number one area where families are just enamored. They are infatuated with the fact that their child could actually really dive deep into something. And maybe they won't stay there forever, and maybe it'll be time to pivot, because let's face it, we talked about sharks. Sophie, she wanted to be I don't know, is a sharktologist.
We'll go with that. Yeah.
There we go. And 23, she still loves animals of the sea, marine life, and she wants to swim with a shark, a great white, in a cage. But she did not end up going, into marine biology. And that's okay. What she learned about it created a passion outside, because we're creating lifelong learners.
Yes.
Right.
So at 23, I'll catch her, watching some kind of Discovery Channel episode on sharks. I think that is like the biggest pat on the back for me as the homeschool mom.
Yep.
That she's 23 and she's still learning. So back to the families that come in, we open this world to them of possibilities, and that their school can look very different than a public school or a private school day, and should look very different. I will say that one of the things I have noticed since the PEP scholarship has been around is is that okay?
Yes, yeah, we can.
Yes,
we can
please
go.
go
That was
there.
where we were going next. Just open it up.
Yeah. So I love that it has brought a whole new genre of people into the home educating world. I think that is wonderful. However, what I have noticed in our store, if we want to talk about sales and curriculum and sales. So in the beginning, when the Homeschool Hive opened in 2022, some of my most popular curricula, I won't say the names of them, were very parent intensive.
Yep.
So I used a lot of, you have to gather these things. We're going to go to field trips. We're doing projects. We're doing, all of the things. Well, now since PEP, and especially this year, because it has, grown to where it is, most of the families that come in here, those curricula are now growing dust. And what sells are the open and go, a workbook. It's very different. In fact, you people are amazing people, and I'm going to plant a seed with you on this podcast, something that I have been praying about and would really like to move forward, but I can't do it alone, is I would like to create a grassroots movement to home educating, and we could offer our expertise to PEP families and show them. I think that they don't know, and they're coming in and they have no clue. We try our best here, but we need to reach out further. We need to share more examples. We need to, so that is my my knowledge of what is happening within the Homeschool Hive. From the evaluator side, we are having more consultations with people wanting help with guidance and direction. And those are wonderful, because my evaluators then share with them that grass movement idea of what home educating can be like. But again, there's 11 evaluators, and there's how many people on the PEP scholarship now?
80,000 this coming up year.
Okay, so 80,000. So we're not even reaching 1%. So I think that if we could get something going with that, I think it could really strengthen the home education movement, because I don't want to see it lost. And right now, from a store owner perspective, it is clearly becoming lost.
Preach.
TBH is in. We're
Preach,
in.
Kimberly.
Let's talk.
I was gonna call me choir because I hear the preaching and I'm with it. I'm with it. Kim, what did you say?
I said
Brenda.
TBHC is in. Let's talk.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I
We're
saw
active.
Courtney come in the comments from Northwest Florida, which is that Pensacola area, and she has been texting back and forth with me for the last several months, saying the exact same thing in her area. So this is not unique.
It's not.
It is a bent of the coming out of that system and emboldening them to take those steps to do it themselves, but then maybe trying to do public school at home or looking for that system and trying to have that plug and play option, because that's what we look for a lot of times. Brenda, and thank you for bringing that up. I'd like to dive into that, but I want to do two things before we move further. One, Brenda, you have your hand up, so you're next. And then two, we're at 12:55 and the podcast normally goes until 1, but if you all have the time, we could extend it for another couple of maybe 30 minutes and kind of dive into that topic a little bit more to round out the conversation, if you're okay with that. Is that doable?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, great. Let's do that then. And Brenda, go ahead. You're up.
I thoroughly understand and agree with you about the PEP scholarship tending to have people do school at home because that's what they know. But over the years, I've observed that it takes people 3 years before they homeschool, before they home educate. The first year, they bring school home.
Yep.
The second year, they realize their child doesn't have to do every problem in the book because they got it on the first round. So they kind of throw out the curriculum. And then by the third year, they're really home educating because they're following the bent of the child. And so I don't give too much fear in that it's going to change home education as long as we can protect our law, as long as we can keep our freedoms intact and our ability to have all of the options that a child would have if they were in a public school or more. I mean, I sort of built all of that. And Vicki, going back to Florida Virtual, I'm going to have to kind of pump Florida Virtual because I helped create it. And the reason for that is that people were putting their children back into public school at 9th grade. They were terrified of algebra or chemistry or physics. And the high school courses that Florida Virtual created back then, I wanted to go back and take some of them. They were so exciting. But it was a bridge. And then at that same time, we were able to get opened dual enrollment for kids so that they can now do biology at college instead of doing it at home and doing it again. And that always made no sense to me. So every one of the opportunities that were opened up for home education students gave parents more of the opportunity of customizing. And so if a course at Florida Virtual helps the parent to get to the next level, then I'm saying, yay, great. Even if they go back to a public school class, if that's what the parent needs, I'm all for it. But I do think that there is a real, I hate to use the word fear, caution maybe, of not doing the right thing for your kids because you've been so ingrained in the system is going to do it.
That fear too.
And we were really blessed. We had no curriculum to choose from. So we had to create our own. And
churn our own butter too.
I mean, my kids didn't have math books until they got Algebra 1 with Saxon, and I handed them the book and the teacher's manual, and I said, do it by the end of the year. We had played games. They had all the concepts down. Yeah. And it was just fun. We did it at night. We'd go out. My husband loved drinking coffee, and we would go to some place that stay open all night and play math games with them. They didn't know they were learning. We just were having fun.
Yeah. That's I want to dive into something that you brought up, Brenda, but I don't want to, Dino, I don't know which direction you're about to go, but you're next. You're next. So let me just say that you talked about your 3-year approach. and where you've seen it happen over the years. And I want to kind of, there's a fork in the road that's kind of happening now that I've observed, which is the 3-year approach, the same reality those parents are facing, but the way they're choosing to move through it, I'm starting to notice a difference. And that's where homeschooling, quote unquote, is being hijacked through the school choice movement, which is year one, we bring public school home and then we struggle and it's like, oh, this is hard. And I've started to notice people aren't getting to year 2 or 3 as much. And they're just going, how do I public school at home better? Where is my drop-off program? I need a full-time drop-off co-op. And I struggle. Nails on a chalkboard.
You need to like do your noises for yourself on that one.
Yeah. Right.
Because I'm an inherent in the word co-op is the idea that it's a cooperative, meaning the parents have come together to cooperate. It's not a weird term pulled out of the ether.
Yeah.
It is specific. It's not how we named a star or anything like that. Like it was literally a functional term that came up because it describes how we got together and did it.
Right.
We cooperated, pooled resources, bootstrapped, did what was necessary, identified problems, and then leaned on each other to solve them in a cooperative manner. And that is what a co-op is. If you are looking for a co-op to drop your kids off at, you're not looking for a co-op, whatever they call themselves.
Right.
And this is where kind of the conversation starts, which is what is homeschooling really, right? What is home education?
Home education is different.
Right.
Yes. Well, hey, look, everybody uses this SEO term. This is where the world we're stuck in, where if you're looking for an FAQ or an answer to how to homeschool or how to do this while homeschooling, most people aren't using the search term, the legal term, or the functional term. They're using the popular term.
Right.
And that's why we're in this weird spot where the internet exists and we're social animals and we're trying to figure out, you know what I mean? No, I don't know what you mean. Help me understand it. So we use the words. This is where we've got to take control. We've got to take it back. We have to unhijack homeschooling. I love that there's a lot of people choosing it. I love that there are people who are emboldened by PEP. I love that there are people who have access to funds to do sports or say yes to a particular instrument that the kid wanted to learn that they could never say before. It still bothers me that I get messages from parents who say, "Can we get digital devices in?" And we're working on that because they have one computer in the house and it died and they can't afford one, and it sucks. That's hard. That's a hard reality. And that lives alongside of this world we're all trying to swim in and make sense of what's available, how to navigate through it, and not lose ourselves in the juggling of the spinning plates. Dina. Let's go to Dina. Yeah.
I just wanted to piggyback on any family that walks in the doors that has PEP, they are thrilled to have broken out of the system. I wanted to make sure that was clear. They are thrilled. I think where there is this gap between homeschooling and home education is, again, educating the homeschool families on what, or the home education families on what home education is, hence feeling we need a grassroots movement to like culminate together, just like you were talking about with co-ops. We're a cooperative, helping each other, navigating. And I feel like PEP families have not had that opportunity presented to them in masses.
Yeah.
So that's
You're
what I
saying
wanted to say.
something that was in effect in the early years. And then as the Facebook groups and all of the internet stuff came along, we lost that connection with support groups, which is what you're talking about. But I'm wondering, Jason, wouldn't that be something that could take place in our Discord? I think he's signing us off for the first thing.
No, my
Okay.
my system wigged out, and I had to refresh to re-engage my mic, but I didn't want to lose your conversation. But then I couldn't reply to you, so now we're all back. Yes, that is actually something that our Discord can handle, and in fact, we actually have a channel in our Discord by county, so that support on localized levels can be coordinated better. But we also have a special channel that most people can't see, because the cool thing about Discord is that you can curate different experiences for people based off of who joins. And I have a unique channel for homeschool leaders that only the leaders can see. So if you're in there and you self-identify as a leader and we discuss it, we'll add you to that. And this is where we have that collaborative channel for the people who want to do that very thing and be the ones to lead those efforts in their area. And yes, the answer is yes. The short answer is yes, absolutely.
But
Thank you for
we
bringing
have the
that up.
mechanism to do that, Kimberly, instead of having one-on-one that you have to do, in your store or at class source. I mean, I know you're going to do those things because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But for those people that are not plugged into those local programs, this would be an opportunity for them to get mentored by older homeschoolers that are willing to join in their county and do that. So I think really what we need, Jason, are leaders who have home educated for a few years that are willing to jump in there and help mentor the younger ones.
Right.
Yep.
100% correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have the capability of hosting virtual discussion groups, panels on a regular basis. There's an internal calendar that we can put up and show people can see when they're scheduled to be and follow all of that along. There's many tools integrated into our community there, which is why we've been trying to grow it and let people know that it's there. But absolutely, many hands make light work. And whenever there is a leader who is interested in being more involved in that and building that grassroots, we are here. We are wanting it, but we have to have all the hands. So it's one of those things where that is the intent behind growing, the intent behind growing our Discord. So thank you, Kim, for bringing that up. And thank you, Brenda, for actually pointing that out. I can't believe the tech nerd is not the one who pointed it out, but Brenda did. Thank you so much.
And I'm definitely not the tech nerd. I just understand the concept.
Y'all are rubbing off on each other.
Yes.
Well, I couldn't turn on a computer, but I helped create the Florida Virtual School. I don't have to know how to do everything. I just know who I just have to know who to get to do it. So
yes.
Bingo.
I don't want to feel like we've lost the anchor in the conversation, but I've definitely noticed that hijacking and noticed the bent toward, rather than people seeing that first year as that place where we choose to let go of that system and that public school, we're seeing them double down on hunker down. This is the only way. Mentally, we go to reinforce it rather than question it and spend someone else's money, spend the dollars that I didn't have before to see if that'll fix it. And that isn't a choice we would have made without a scholarship. So there's a negative part in which the scholarship plays a negative role. I don't want to poo-poo on it because I think that there are pros and cons, and it's up to us to make the good out of it or the ill. And that's a self-governing, which I'm all about, the freedom to self-govern. But that means we have to govern ourselves accordingly, understand what's happening, and choose well. That Indiana Jones moment, right? Like, choose well, choose wisely. Dina, you've had your hand up forever. Go.
Okay, these ladies are saying amazing things. I'm just sitting there going, yes, preach, amen. I'm with you. Let me just say, first of all, in the Tampa area, I really want us to do a in-person thing. And I know that Kim, you had put some stuff up about leadership meeting up, and I hope I haven't missed that. I don't think I have.
Corey and I actually met yesterday.
Yeah, I want to be there for that.
It was the first one, though, so we're gonna keep pushing it. We figured each time we post about it, hopefully more and more people come, and eventually it'll grow. So,
and Kim, I think that the Hive is such a pivotal place for disseminating that information. So we're we're all in. Let's link arms and mentor these mamas. For a long time at ClassSource, we had something, probably for the first 20 years, 18, 20 years, we had something called Mentoring Moms meetings. And we had topics that were talked about. Sometimes we brought people in, sometimes I did it, sometimes another instructor who had an expertise in an area did it. And we walked and mentored the families. We still do that. We're willing to do it, but we're in an age now where fewer people are willing to leave their house and they want to sit in their pajamas and watch it on YouTube. So we've had to kind of revamp how we do some of that, and it's been a challenge. Jason, I think getting back to what are the issues with new things coming in? What I have seen in the last 5 years is there's a larger amount of people who are not taking on the mantle of home education. They are just rejecting the system.
There you go.
They want to have control, but they do not necessarily want to take on the job. And so I get regular phone calls for ClassSource saying, can I bring my child so you can homeschool them? Verbatim quote. And I always say, zero place. Most days I don't want to homeschool mine. And I have to get up and put on the fruit of the spirit to do it.
Can you pause and go back and let me understand?
Yeah.
That's landing. So you're saying that parents are calling you to check out your home education support program, and they're saying, hey, can you homeschool my kid for me? Or where do I go to get them homeschooled?
Right. They want a place. They need, I'll talk to them. It starts out as I'm thinking about homeschooling, and I help them with the law information and tell them where to go for their county. And then it turns into, now I work full time and I can't teach this. So I'm going to put them somewhere every day of the week.
And that's just a change of venue.
That's what I said. I usually tell them what you're looking for is a private school.
A private school, yes.
And they're always shocked. They're like, what? I was like, you have to take on, if you're going to home educate your child, parent directed education, you have to put the mantle on for better or for worse. You have to accept these were my choices. This is what I want for my child. And I'm going to walk this journey with them. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and sit with them and learn. I learn along with my child. I had to relearn. I have at least 4 Algebra 1 credits at this point. And I didn't want the first one. That mantle is not being taken on by a lot of people. And that ends up being a continual, either I feel bad for them because they're insecure. Because they haven't taken on the mantle, or they are afraid, or they really don't want to home educate. They just want control and don't want them in the school. So that's something that we're seeing that we did not see 20 years ago.
Oh, I'm seeing that almost every single day now. The conversations I'm having before.
And I think that's a great point about taking on the mantle. And it's uncomfortable. It's challenging. You have the chance to be a hero like Superman, but you've got to realize that you have to wear your underwear on the outside of your costume until that feels normal. And now the power of the sun will infuse you to greater heights. I'm sorry. I'm being a nerd, but it is. It's a little. You have to go through that place where you live in the uncomfortable, and that is okay. And we're trying to buy our way out of that at every turn, and that it's a different challenge than home education community has faced before in our state. Vicki, you've had your hand up a while. Go ahead.
My arm is so tired. I think I love the grassroots approach in terms of mentoring, but like Kim and I saw, we did a little bit of this through our local, through SALT. We need to give the grassroots approach to the big picture and all of the options. And then if we're truly going to walk alongside homeschooling, home educating parents and really help them open up the world that is available to them, it requires that one-on-one touch.
Yes.
And it's interesting that this came up because I am feeling extremely called to, and I'm praying through launching my own kind of service that is that one-on-one, down to the nitty-gritty. You want to look at curricula, you're confused as to what might work for your child. Let's meet and look at them all. Let me tell you what I may know from other people. I don't think that the answer is one person. I think it's more of a cooperative of mentor parent educators who can take the time to go one-on-one, walk through that, help you identify when a pivot is necessary. So I'm not sure yet what that would look like, but I think it's so necessary because we all know a plethora of people who could potentially be involved in that and might be best suited for, the working parent or the mother with 5 or more children, or the one who's just pouring into 1 or 2 children. It's so customizable because home education is customizable. Otherwise, you do find the people who just want a solution that is not the system they're currently in, and they're just going to recreate the system they're currently in a different venue. So, as we talk through this and we work through that, development of a grassroots kind of guidance structure, we also need to think about how do we bring people in that can customize it and walk alongside one-on-one. That happened with a young woman, a young mom who was starting to home educate. She really didn't know what to do. She was in a system that wasn't working for her because her kids were kind of rejecting it. And now she's in a program that she loves. She's in a co-op for experiences and all the things outside of the actual education component. And she's happy, but it took that one-on-one touch.
Right. Amen. Vicki, that's so true.
Well, the needs analysis needs to happen, right? It's like anything, so many times, how many times have you seen on Facebook people asking, what curriculum should I use, or what group should I join, or what? I don't know. Where do you live? How old are your kids? What do you want for them? Are they on a track to have a rigorous academic where they're going to be a physician's assistant or a lawyer, or do they want to, open a bakery? There's so many things that we need to find out about them as people, as a family, in order to guide them. And if any one of us are honest, we're not always the best person to guide that person, right? It's about connecting them with someone who has a similar experience, a similar need, where they can share with them what that looks like for them. We actually just had this happen at SALT. We have a new family. They're going to be homeschooling next year. She came to check us out. We were talking, and she's like, my daughter, she's in AP classes and I want her to stay in them, and I want her on a track where she's going to get into, a really good college. I was like, okay, well, I'm not the person for you, because first of all, I'm still navigating high school myself for the first time, right? And one of our leaders was there whose daughter got into FSU and Georgia Tech, and her younger daughter is in all AP classes and has probably a 6.0 grade point average, right? And so I said, I actually am not the best person to talk to you, but let me introduce you to Elisa and she can help you. And so I let her talk with them. They sat there and talked for 40 minutes. And she was able to impart information to her in a way that I would not have been able to, right? So it's that recognition that we each have a piece of the puzzle, and we need to connect them to the other pieces as they need.
It's like guidance counselor for the parent instead of the child.
Yes.
Yes.
So
well, that's what my evaluators do. Excuse me, every day.
Yeah.
They are guidance counselor during. We are too. We're therapists. We're
you're my therapist. When Lucas was in kindergarten, I would call her crying. He's still not breathing. And she was definitely my on-call therapist for my first probably 2-3 years of homeschooling.
Yeah. And my evaluators are trained to do just what you're talking about. They know, because to be an evaluator, you do have to have a Florida certification, but one of my requirements is you also have to be a home education mom. And they've all been, so I don't just hire Florida certified teachers. I think that would defeat the point. And so,
I love you, Kim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think that, absolutely. What Vicki, you're saying, and Kim, what you're saying, that's exactly what we need. We need, because the homeschool hive can't cover it all. We have
No,
way
none of
too
us
many
can.
people, not a single one of us. We need armies of people in all different areas of our state. Leaders that are in South Florida to the Panhandle to, you know, collaborating and creating this network and support for pet families, but also new families delving into the world of home education without a scholarship. I know that's becoming few and far between, but you know,
It's
we
still there.
want to.
It's there.
They're
Yeah,
still
for
there,
sure.
and we want to make sure. This is something I think about probably more often than I realized until the other day. I think so often about making sure that our home education statute is protected
Amen.
and not changed, because I worry that one day PEP will tack on some new requirements that will cause people to maybe say, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I want to make sure that they can hop right back.
Yes,
And that
absolutely.
statute, yep. So,
I'm
Yeah,
thinking
I
on
had-
it personally, just saying.
There's
I had a lot of people at the beginning that were big opponents to PEP.
Yep.
And we know all of us the first year were kind of like, let's see. And I was like, well, I'll dip my toe in the water. But then I ended up having a UA, so it was fine. But anyway, what I had a lot of people saying to me, it's a problem that's going to be, regulated, all that. And I said, guess what? Home educating parents have zero issue changing programs. We've done it before and we'll do it again. We are the biggest, no, don't tell me I have to. We'll go right back to the home ed statute that Brenda protected.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Just to go back to Kimberly's point just a second ago, just as a shameless plug, a really good place to start with the conversation would be to go to something like a regional homeschool conference.
Oh, imagine that. Do we know of one?
Yeah, there happens to be this really great one coming up this summer in July.
In July,
in
right?
Tampa.
Yeah.
And I mean, for real though, there's something to be said about being in person, right? Like, Dina, you were talking about your mentorship meetings, and people don't want to leave their home. And I think that's why we have been having trouble getting leaders to commit to coming and meeting in person for a leadership meeting. People want to stay home and they want to be comfortable. But when you're stepping into something that's hard, you have to be willing to do hard things. And one of those hard things is putting yourself out there and getting in person and talking to people face to face. And something like the conference, you're able to do that because it's all of these people that are here are actually going to be at the conference, right? Along with so many others that can share with you no matter where you are in your journey. And it's a great place for us as leaders to connect with families. And I think one of my favorite things that I've seen from the conference is not the day of, but all of the days that come after it, because those connections are made, but they're made with people who are in your area, in your community. So you're able to then reach out to the mom who was struggling to find out how they're doing, or to help them connect in. They need help, with a math class, connecting them to ClassSource. They will have curriculum questions, sending them to the Homeschool Hive. Like, all of those connection points can be made not just the day of, but in the months after. And I think that that's where the benefit comes from, actually coming together as a community. And I would love to see that happen for every community around Florida, because there's something to be said for that regional point of contact.
Yes.
I want to dive in with two points. One, I love everything that you're saying. You are all hidden gems. And I wish that everyone across the state knew or had you in their pocket and could chat with you or talk with you or connect with someone like you, a mentor that was cloned after your own likeness. And I think that ultimately that's our aim for the Discord, is to be able to provide stuff like that with localized availability. And I'm curious, follow up with me afterwards. I really need to know how we can help pull more in and engage on that level, because there is a space for that. My second point, each of you mentioned something about your husbands and the dads. You all chose, not Dina. You all chose homeschooling, and the dads are like, huh, what? And there was this turning point that happened. It was the other way around in my home, because I was like, we're homeschooling, and my wife goes, what's that? And I want to say that we need dads involved. When Brenda and I first started working together, my wife and I had been volunteering at crisis pregnancy centers, and I had been working on building tools to help dads be fathers who didn't have a dad, and we're just trying to help in those areas. And this was one of the main reasons that drew me in, was to draw in more fathers, to be more active, to take a leadership role. And this is not, I hope this doesn't, a panel full of women. Let me be very careful what I say here. This is in no way, shape, or form to negate the very valid, important role that you mothers play at all. But we need fathers to pick up the mantle and lead. We need to celebrate the involvement of dads when they show up. Dina, you have some amazing men in your home education instructional program, and the classes that they're offering to support these home education families in that a la carte way, that you could show up and learn ancient Hebrew. Like, that is so fantastic. And from someone who lived in another country for so many years, and we need these dads to connect as well. And I don't want to jump down the rabbit hole of like, men need to talk about their emotions. They don't communicate enough. We do, though. And here's something that I will be. This is why I put our eggs in the basket of Discord, because as a gamer, I've loved gaming since the beginning. I'm tying it all together, trust me. And as I grew up and played these different video games in these big, expansive worlds, you would have to hop from one game to another and hit the ground running and start all over and learn all the new things. And there were guides, and there were tools to communicate with, and everyone used those tools to share guides and share resources to become better, faster at gaming. And now, man, you jump onto Discord and there's any number of gaming communities that help you hit the ground running fast and cut through all the priorities, or prioritize this and be able to do that and focus on this area first and then move to that. And a lot of them are dudes. And I would love to see the same kind of thing emerge for our Discord, to get these men involved, to allow them to min-max homeschooling the way that we have for so long in gaming, and share strategies. Or I did this today with the kids and went there, and really pull dads back in and celebrate their involvement, to give them a place that's for them to land and be coordinating. And we've got a couple. We've got some military dads in our Discord. We've got a number of dads that are in there, that are active. And some of them communicate over what's happening in Alachua, and one of them is posting, and his son goes and competes in the debate tournaments, and there's a lot happening. And I want to see more. I want to see the growth and that grassroots linking of arms, because we have challenges that are coming to homeschooling. They are home education, homeschooling. Let's not call it that. Let's just call it parents. We have challenges coming to parents, that there are people who are, and it's not because of the scholarship, so we can distance ourselves from that part of the conversation. It is because you are flexing your authority that you have, that for all of human history, the kids have been yours. And until recently, we were asleep to that in a large way. And that was perfectly okay. We would churn out little mindless drones. And now many parents are waking up to that. And we go, oh, wait a minute. Stop. Don't do that. And that's not responsible. And how do we know you're teaching them well? And you got to be held accountable. And we need regulations on this stuff. How do we even know if they're learning? Like, I hate to be the guy who's rude about it, but it's none of your business whether my kids are learning. They're not yours. You won't be there when they're married or their marriage falls apart. You won't be there if I bury one of them. You won't be there if they're struggling on the streets, homeless. You won't be there. I will. So miss me with all the noise about this system or that, and let's wake parents up to their right and defend their freedoms scholarship or no scholarship, be an opportunistic and take the money, or don't and do your own thing and whatever. But they're yours, and that has to be the constant mission. And we need dads to see that clearly and take the mantle up to lead. That's what I'm here for. And that's what I really want to see. I'm going to step off the soapbox now. Vicky, you have your hand up.
I'll jump back on the soapbox for you.
Okay, okay.
I feel as if, particularly with the support of dads, there are a couple of facets that we have to explore. One, we don't know if there's going to be a time period or a season where they're going to have to step up and do the educating. With this economy, it becomes more difficult to be a one-income household for a lot of people. Disciplinary issues, pivots, all the things that can arise in a home education journey. If we don't have dads that are actively engaged and honestly really sold out for it and are cheerleaders, it's easy to jump off. It's easy for them to, or, you know, when the February slump happens, everybody know about the February slump. It's easy for dad to say, well, honey, if it's too difficult, it's expensive, like we don't have that second income, maybe school is an option. So it really is self-preservation that we need dads involved, but also, like any school, we need multiple points of authority and multiple points of accountability. So I would love to see more and more panels, maybe this podcast that I know about, or this homeschool conference that I know about, where we're really engaging dads, because I believe that even if I could name 10 homeschool families right now, the role of the dad is different in every one of them. But they're all advocates. They're all supporters, be it financial, emotional, all the things. You know, we affectionately refer to dad as the principal, not the English teacher here. But he will be the first one in the February slump to go, it's fine. Don't make any decisions. It's February, because he believes in what we do.
If you can find me dads, they'll be on this podcast and we will host it 100%.
Oh, challenge accepted. Yes. Okay. All right.
That's a thing that I will absolutely make happen, and I'll make that regular if it wants to be regular. If there's someone who's interested once a month even, we will make it regular and we'll build it. The infrastructure
Dr. Mullins
and
Mr. Hannon just got voluntold for that.
I believe they did. I believe they did. And they'll do it together. They'll enjoy that.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah. And I have those guys in our Discord who I think they would be active and willing participants. So I think we can, if we can pull a couple of them together, I would love to. And I would love to grab some of our rural families, you know, those ones that are out there. Dina, you know who I'm talking about. We reconnected with them. I ran into one at Bass Pro Shop, and they live out in Apalachicola and just remote, and they're looking for a debate, you know, group to practice with. And they were there at NCFCA, taking it all in and trying to see what it was all about this week at Panama City, their competitions that was over there. And that was the second time I've ran into them. They ran into me at Bass Pro Shop and flagged me down one day. Aren't you that guy on the podcast? And I was like, this has never happened before, sure. But they're there, and they're all over Wakulla and other places, and they're isolated, and that doesn't have to be. And we can build a hub, a nexus, you know, and allow those connections to thrive. Some will do better in person, and I love that. But some kind of guidance, connection, availability, information sharing, resources, tips, or just venting on a hard day. You know, I don't know if you know this, but we actually have a mom's corner and a dad's corner in the Discord. And when someone joins and they flag themselves as a dad, they don't see the mom's corner. It's not on their panel of channels. And the same is true of moms, so that dads can go chat and not be, you know, worrying who's looking over their shoulder. They can actually communicate with each other and be like, hey, look, this is what's happening, and get some help, you know, and truly connect in their own unique ways. And I think that's great. We're going to close. So we're going to start to move to close. But as we do that, I want to give one last moment for either your recap or your wrap up or homeschool advice for newcomers or the roadblocked and struggling, or just one inspirational takeaway that you've had or a thought that you want to share before we call it out. I'm going to give everybody a chance to go. Before we do that, Dina, you have your hand raised. Was there something else?
It was actually something like that, so it's perfect.
Okay, great. We'll start with you then. We'll start with you. Go ahead.
Thanks. I just wanted to share a little story from the perspective of a child. So that we just got back from the NCFCA regional competition up in Panama City over spring break. And yesterday, my son is 12. He's just turned 12 last November. So he made the cutoff by 1 month to be able to participate. It's 12 up to 18 competing.
Wow.
And they do not have categories. They compete against each other. It was his first competition. We went, he competed, he did 10 different speeches over the weekend and got his scores back, and he outranked high schoolers in 6 of his 10 speeches. That's not the story. That happened yesterday. We went out to lunch after worship and happened to run into at the restaurant to a group of people that we know that were a part of a private Christian school that he was in for a couple of years. And his teacher from one of those years was there, and she's lovely. We just love her. She actually worships with my mom and dad. And she ran up to him and she said, what have you been up to? And so he told her what had happened, and he looked at her. This was not scripted. I did not put this in his mouth. He said, Miss Edwards, if I had been in school, I couldn't have done any of this.
Ooh.
It gave me chills.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Kimberly, let's go to you next.
Okay. Well, first of all, this has been fabulous. Let's do it more often.
Okay.
I really, really enjoyed it. I just want to say to anyone listening or that, there are people out there that want to help you to become a pro in your home education setting and help you tackle any issues, any problems. The Homeschool Hive is here to all of the lovely people, and there are, I am sure, hundreds, maybe thousands of more Floridians that are out there. And just know you can do this, and know if you take the leap from home school to home educating, you are going to change the whole tone of your familial structure. And that is worth more than any other part of home education.
Absolutely. Miss Hannon.
I don't even know, right? We've talked about so many things today. I think for a new person, like for those of you who are maybe, this is the time of year I feel like where people are starting to question what next year is going to look like. I think I'm ready to pull them. Am I going to pull them? Are we going to finish out the year? Are we going to just wait till the new year? What does it look like? Just give yourself grace in all of it and recognize that we all have been doing this for a really long time. So I feel like sometimes people looking at us as homeschoolers, like, you look at someone who plays a professional sport, right? And you watch them and they make it look so easy. And then you try to do it and you're like, what? Like, I can't do this. It's because we've been practicing. It's because we've been in it, living it every single day. And we still fail every single day. So don't let us fool you, because we're talking about our best moments, right? There's something really special about homeschooling where, for me, the education component is obviously super important. I want my kids to be successful. I want my boys to grow up and to be good providers for their family. But I want us to love each other, and I want my kids to want to be around me when they're adults, right? I want my kids to want to come home. I want them to be around each other. I want them to know that as much as they drive each other crazy, that's how much they're going to rely on each other as they get older. And homeschooling allows you to have that connection, not just within your own family, but within whatever circle God has brought to you, right?
Yeah.
It's recognizing that the kid that is friends with your child this year is their friend because they chose them, because they care about the same thing. They have the same passion. And you get to know their mom because they're not just in a class together. You are together, right? They know the dad, you know, it's a family connection. And that is the piece of homeschooling, home education, that I think gets lost when we're so focused on the school all of the time. There's this bigger picture out there. So when you're looking at this, just recognize, like, you don't have to know what curriculum you want to use right away. You don't have to know what co-op you want to join right away. You don't have to know any of those things. Just trust that first step. And as you take that first step, then you figure out what the next one looks like, and know that there are people there, like Kimberly said, like, that are going to be cheering you on at every corner to be able to help you. And if that person can't help you, they'll direct you to someone who can. Between all of the resources here, between Home Education Foundation and the Hive and TBHC and ClassWork, like, we're all here. You have these connection points, and let us help you. It's, besides homeschooling our kids, like, I think it's what builds us the most is helping each other on this journey, because we recognize the value of it, and we see what it's done for our own families and the people we care about. And we want that for as many people as possible who are willing to put in the hard work to do it.
Oh, absolutely love it. Thank you. Ms. Vicky, when you go, you mentioned the February slump, and I think many people, I hadn't heard it until you mentioned it at lunch that day.
Yeah.
So if you could just open that can and then roll into your closing statements, I would love that, just so people will know what that is.
Sure. Kim touched on it briefly. This is the time of year, February, March, and we're starting to look at plans for the following school year. And but we're also coming off the high energy of the holidays and the fatigue of the holidays. And we are starting to look at next year, which can be a little daunting, right? Don't make huge decisions. This is where I encourage people to look for where we can tweak, but nothing major. Just let's look at tweaking. Let's look at, are we being humble and honoring our kids enough to say, do I need to pull in another resource there? Do I need a tutor? Do I need to take what I have and just do it better rather than change everything? Because we know big change can bring even more angst and difficulty and stress. So I say this is a time of year to, yes, look at next year, but don't look at massive changes. See what we can do better about what we're already doing. And that's what my closing will be. Homeschooling is a gift, and we are in a state that is so incredibly supportive of us.
Yeah.
So it is our responsibility to do it well, do it with integrity. And while many people, some on this call and others who aren't, have paved the way for those behind you. Even if you're brand new, do it well, use your resources. If you don't feel equipped, we're promised that God will equip us for what we're called to, but it doesn't mean he's going to give us the expertise. It means he's going to give us the resources and the tools necessary to fulfill our calling. So do that well, get those resources, utilize them, find someone who's done it before you and ask for help. That's homeschooling well. It's not that you have to know everything. It's that you have to be humble enough and willing enough to go out and look for who does. So, pave the way, pave it with great intention, and follow along those who have tried to help ahead of you. So that would be my advice.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you so much. Let me get I don't want to leave you out.
Thanks.
Absolutely epic. You guys are fantastic, and I'm so thankful that each of you were here and had your own things to add to this conversation. It is so much better than when I monologue like a Disney villain, which I'm so thankful that Brenda usually saves me from, but today I have a panel of people saving me from that. Thank you all for everything that you brought, the wisdom, the way you've poured into your families, the way that you have so obviously faced obstacles and yet stuck with it. And it's a testament to the possibility of it for others, but it's also a testament to who you are as individuals. And we need leaders like you in the community as it grows, because it's experiencing rapid growing pains. And And we need those. In Japanese, it would be hari and ito, which is the needle and the thread follows the needle. We need those needles, and you are the needles. And we appreciate you so much for being that, starting those paths and opening them up, because without the needle, the thread has a really hard time poking its way through. So, I guess I'll go, and then Brenda, you always get last. You always get the last word. I love you, and you can always have last word.
Okay.
So I will say the Home Education Foundation's official position is that you are the parent, and they are your kids, and that freedom is freedom, or it ain't freedom. Live with intent. Nothing is overtaking you except which is common to man. And all throughout history, parents have raised their own children, done their own thing, and that has been their duty and responsibility and their joy to have. And it should be yours too. And you should be able to be free and flexible and pick and choose what works for you and your children and what doesn't, and let go of the things that don't work and hold on to the things that do, and ride each wave as it comes. Brenda, you're up.
Well, it's hard to add to what's been said, but I would just encourage parents not to miss this opportunity with your children. The time flies so fast. And if you are busy outside of the home and are not spending time with your children, seeing them learn and the light bulbs go on, you're missing some really wonderful opportunities with your children. And to build the rapport that you are the authority in their life, you'll be the one they come and ask instead of a teacher or a counselor or somebody outside of your home. I think that's one of the beauties of home education. You can't possibly teach your child all the facts. And that's what, to a large extent, the system is doing. But we've got computers today. Kids can find stuff on the internet faster than you can ask the question.
Yep.
And so don't worry about that. Build on the math things. That's really important. The basic skills are important. Teach them to read, to love to read, because if you've given them that sense of reading, nothing can stop them from learning. They will be lifelong learners, as Kimberly mentioned. So build the unity in your family, as Kim mentioned. Spend that time with your kids, because it goes way too fast.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all again for being here, and I'm going to take us and close this out. So if you'll bear with me just a moment. We want to say thank you to our top sponsors, Arete, FBEA, Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group. And yes, FBEA and TBHC have their annual conferences and conventions coming up. They're both going to be fantastic events. Go check them out. Thank you to our panelists today. Thank you to parents in the free state of Florida for supporting the work that we do here at the Home Education Foundation and with HEF Connect. And with that, I hope that something you've seen today is inspiring or thought-provoking. Share this podcast, help us get the word out, help us benefit the community, which is our aim. And we hope that you have a wonderful, productive, fruitful, memory-filled Monday.